Aaron, it's great to see you. I think you were our debut guest when we were kind of rehearsing, so I'm thrilled to have what is now your debut appearance on our real show. Thanks for taking the time to join us.
Great to be here.
So I want to start with something that I have to confess I feel a little bit embarrassed about. I've been on kind of a crusade to try and convince conservatives and right-wing populists and people concerned about the U.S. security state that they have an ally, the Ilhan Omar, the member of the squad who I keep trying to tell them is the most heterodox and independent-minded of all the members of the squad, maybe even the Democratic caucus. And I was touting the fact that she seemed, in her words, excited about the possibility of this new church committee that the Republicans were planning. Let's show our viewers what it is that she said on this video.
The obviously cuts to the Pentagon budget is pretty exciting for folks like me who are putting up amendments to do so. I also think the church-style committee that they are thinking about to look into if there has been any violations of First Amendment rights of Americans by the FBI and others also interests me. So we'll see what ends up happening and if the Republicans are able to actually be able to get anything done.
Aaron, it excites her, that investigation, and it interests her so much, this church committee. I guess we're going to have to see what ends up getting done. But what ended up getting done is that every single Democrat, every last one of them, including that person we just saw on the screen, Ilhan Omar, ended up voting no against this committee trying to shield the CIA, Homeland Security, the FBI from investigative scrutiny. What do you make of all that?
It reminds me of when Ilhan Omar, early on in the Ukraine proxy war, a few months after Russia invaded, warned that sending billions of dollars to Ukraine and U.S. weapons would be likely disastrous. And I said, great, it's great to see a progressive member of Congress making this point because it was obvious. And then shortly afterwards, when it was time to vote on whether or not to approve those billions of dollars in weapons, Ilhan Omar voted for them and then voted for them again and again and again. And finally, when some anti-war protesters confronted her about it, she scolded them and basically accused them of being Kremlin agents. So this time, I'm not sure what happened in between her saying how exciting it was that we're having this new church committee to investigate the intelligence agencies, and then a few days later voting against that very proposal that she was excited by. But unfortunately, this has become par for the course with our progressives in Congress. And in the case of Ilhan Omar, I share your sentiment. For me, it's especially sad because I personally have a soft spot for her. She's been viciously attacked as a woman of color who wears hijab, who's taken brave stances, for example, on Palestine, where I very much agree with what she said, and she's been smeared for it. And here she is, time and time again, siding with the very forces that have attacked her, especially in voting every time for this proxy war in Ukraine, and now refusing to conduct oversight of the national security state. So it's a shame.
It is. You know, I would love to be able to ask her about that and a lot of other things. I invited her on my show
you
right
won't
before.
Be able to.
No, I invited her on my show right before Christmas, and she's like, you know, I'm trying to have some downtime. I don't really want to do any interviews. I then saw her on MSNBC doing friendly interviews with Mehdi Hassan and the like. I then reached out to her again after the new year, as she asked me to do, and she has not yet responded. So I don't think I'll get to pose these questions to her directly. She'll only go on places that won't ask her about that, particularly MSNBC,
Yes.
Democracy Now!, CNN, and the like. So we probably won't have her on our show anytime soon, though we will keep asking. Let me ask you about this church committee, what is being called the new church committee, the subcommittee run by Jim Jordan, designed to investigate certain aspects and abuses of whether these security state agencies have been interfering in our politics. What is it that you think, with regard to Russiagate in particular, a topic that you've covered, I think, better than anybody as a journalist, is something that needs investigative scrutiny from the Congress?
Well, look, if you look at all the major planks of Russiagate, all the conspiracy theories that sustained it for so long, pretty much all of them have been demolished. The collusion aspect, which was the biggest one, the idea that Trump was conspiring with Russia and being secretly blackmailed by Vladimir Putin with compromise, including a P-tape. Nobody serious pays any lip service to that anymore. Certainly
Robert Mueller didn't even
MSNBC
mention that
do.
theory, that he really didn't even bother to debunk it or even mention it.
He claimed it wasn't in his purview. He claimed that the Steele dossier wasn't in his purview, which was actually, the more information we find out, was a lie. It was in his purview. But that aside, so the collusion aspect, nobody takes that seriously anymore. No one tries to argue that Trump is a Russian agent and that there's a conspiracy. The idea that Russia brainwashed millions of Americans into not voting for Hillary and voting for Trump via social media bots and memes, that one is demolished too. And we've gotten a lot of disclosures from the Twitter files showing how Twitter was pressured to validate this claim, even though they had no evidence for it. And just this week, the Washington Post came out with a story saying that actually, yeah, Russian bots didn't have any influence on the 2016 election, which was obvious from the start. If anybody looked at the Russian memes that were put out on Facebook or Twitter, most of them had nothing to do with the election. Most of them came after the election, and they were juvenile. So the idea that they could influence one person not to vote for Hillary Clinton, vote for Trump, was just a joke. But it was able to sustain itself because nobody in media was willing to do their job and look at the actual evidence. So that's done with. The one thing that remains, though, is this allegation of who stole the emails from the Democratic Party and gave them to Hillary Clinton, and gave them to WikiLeaks. Robert Mueller and U.S. intelligence officials claim it was Russia. To this date, we've seen no evidence for it. We've seen some claims, but we haven't seen any underlying evidence. But we've also seen underlying evidence that undermines this claim. For example, the fact that just as the FBI relied on a Clinton campaign contractor, Christopher Steele, to spy on Carter Page and pursue leads in its collusion aspect of the Russia investigation, the FBI also relied on a different Clinton campaign contractor, Crowdstrike, which is the firm, the private firm, that first accused Russia of hacking the DNC and pressured the FBI to validate its claims, even as it refused to let the FBI do its own inspection of the server, even as it spent months delaying to send the FBI images of the server, and even as it gave the FBI redacted reports. So CrowdStrike decided what the FBI could see of its own forensics and investigations of the server. And by the way, who hired CrowdStrike? The Michael Sussman, who was indicted for misleading the FBI and trying to sell them on this concocted claim of a secret Trump-Russia back channel via the Alpha Bank server. So,
yeah, I mean, we should add he was acquitted on very kind of narrow grounds, but no one disputes the fact that the story he brought to the FBI about this connection between the Trump organization and a Russian bank through a secret server was a fraud. That's not why he was acquitted, because that story was true. Everyone acknowledges that's a lie.
Exactly. No one disputes that it was a fraud, and the reason why he was acquitted, you could argue, is because the case was on the wrong grounds. Because, of course, the idea that the FBI was fooled is a joke. The FBI was in on his fraud. So the idea of prosecuting him on the basis of fooling the FBI didn't make any sense, because the FBI was entirely in with him on this fraud, which actually makes the scandal even worse. So given the preponderance of fraud, given the role of Democratic partisan actors in this fraud, and given the fact they hired the firm that generated this foundational claim that Russia stole the DNC emails, and given the fact that CrowdStrike, this firm, admitted under oath that it had no evidence that Russia actually hacked anything, which we only found out about 2 years after Mueller shut down because Adam Schiff sat on that testimony and wouldn't release it to the public. That, to me, is the angle here that needs the most scrutiny. And we can start by releasing the CrowdStrike reports. I've tried to get those through the Freedom of Information Act, and the FBI has denied the existence of those reports. And what they gave me finally was one cover page, and they redacted the rest as if that's somehow sensitive national security information. Why is the work of a private company working for Hillary Clinton national security information? It can only be in that category if the FBI is relying on it, which makes it all the more important for us to see it, because this is a company working for the campaign that drummed up a phony collusion allegation against Trump. So that, to me, is the angle that should be the subject of the most disclosures.
So my guess is there's going to be a lot of... Thanks for watching this clip from System Update. Catch our full shows for free, live weekdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on Rumble, and join our locals community at greenwald.locals.com for all of my written journalism, exclusive after-show Q&As, and more.